Oh my God, we're live. Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Tonight is gonna be a few questions. And for the Cartridge Corner, everybody's favorite short action 5.56 NATO /223 Remington. I almost said Winchester.
That would have
before.
Yes.
You said that before once and you kind of threw me off.
Yeah. That one I did because I thought Jim was sleeping, so I was trying to see if he was paying attention.
Yeah, right. Jim's busy over on Wikipedia.
That's tasty. Anyway. So, Jim, we'll let you start off tonight. What you been doing?
Been busy, a little bit busy tonight. I moved part of my handgun ammo out of the garage and into a safer location. I also took it took a lot of trips. Let me say it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good boy. I congratulate you.
Yep. Anyway, so I also took time and showed a friend the difference between the 45 ACP large pistol primer and the 45 ACP small pistol primer. Fortunately, I have a couple loaded rounds, and I was able to show him exactly what I meant because they were both over top of the same load of powder, propellant, and all that sort of thing. He's a Marine Corps veteran, so he's quite familiar with the caliber. And that's been about it, other than just talking with friends, about guns and stuff. But I handed out a couple business cards with my phone number and the links to the Reloading Podcast and the Reloading Room, and all that sort of thing. And the guy was very interested in the podcast.
Good.
Other than that, your turn, Jason.
I met up with one of our listeners, Steve Zeppelin.
Yeah. Sent some pictures out too.
We took a couple of pictures and sent them to Jim. Yeah.
And Mike.
But yeah, we just visited for, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours. But he's an interesting guy. It was fun to talk to him and meet him.
Does he have a brother named Led?
Yeah, actually he does. Yeah.
Okay, I believe it.
Led and Steven.
Yep. I've listened to Led quite a bit.
I bet you have, you old rocker.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I'll bet Steve Zeppelin gets that all the time.
Probably. I didn't bring it up to him because it's too obvious.
Yeah, but he's a podcast listener, so I'll take my share from that.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, it was good to talk, to visit with him and learn about his world, his life. I was invited to go to the range on Saturday morning, and when I woke up, I made coffee and I sat at the dining room table and realized I wasn't going to get up and go shooting. I was just tired, just needed to relax. So I had to text my buddy and tell him I'm going to be a flake. And of course he shot a record group for him that day and he sent me pictures, little bastard.
Sent you what you deserved.
I think it was a lie. I really, because he doesn't shoot like that when I'm around. So I'm thinking it was a lie.
He's sandbagging on you.
Yep. I think he had a hole punch or a number 2 pencil, and he went up there and did his little group. And I have plans for shooting this coming Sunday with another buddy. So hopefully I'll follow through with that and get the little trigger time. And that's it for me. How about you, Trav?
Well, I've been working through a 5-gallon bucket of 223 brass to cleaning and polishing, and that's it. Slow week.
How about you, Phil?
Not much. I managed to sneak in a little bit of washing some 5.56 brass and loaded a few rounds here and there. Most of my weekend was regrettably not spent at the gun range. It was spent painting at my wife's request. So if I want to continue to have the privilege to live in the home that I pay the mortgage on, sleep in the bed next to my wife, Mama needed some stuff painted, so that's what happened. But other than that, just trying to get a little done here and there where I can, and just putting in a lot of hours on my own podcast. It's kind of a welcome retreat to sit down with you guys and not have to do all the brain work for a change.
Glad we could help.
Brain work. Who does the brain work on our podcast?
Jason, I like you. I don't want to hurt your feelings this early on in the show.
Okay, Phil, thanks.
I mean, look, as it is, my 6-year-old's already laughing at you because you said it was too humid in Louisiana to move here.
It is.
Yeah, she thought that was adorable.
Comedy. I do tend to agree with her, though. It is a little humid in Louisiana.
And they got gators.
Those are easy to shoot them.
Oh.
They shoot them
I don't
on TV, so.
I don't recommend you try to run one over the truck, though. The big ones win.
Yep.
Oh, really? They're that big, huh?
I can't tell if you're being facetious or genuinely just.
I live on the West Coast. We don't have alligators. We have
Okay.
lizards. So.
Have you ever seen a book on dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Kind of like those, but just a little smaller.
Really?
What's your truck you drive to work?
Huh?
Pardon me?
Jason, what's your vehicle you drive to work?
GMC Sierra, half ton,
Short box or long box?
long.
Okay. So a mid-sized gator would be too long to fit in your truck box.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Mid-sized. Big ones would be about the same length as a short box Chevy. And really freaking big ones would be as long as your Chevy.
Wow.
And on the other hand,
they're about the size of a 24-inch tree.
yeah, and I have personally witnessed a fairly large one get run over at interstate speeds by a half-ton pickup truck.
Oh my God!
Didn't kill it, just pissed it off.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
And I know because I was driving along, not that far behind him, and it was like early in the morning, and I just saw the taillights in front of me kind of do this number.
Uh-huh.
So I, got into the other lane to avoid whatever was in the middle of the road, and the alligator that the previous truck had hit lunged at my truck as I passed him.
Oh, wow.
Wasn't dead, pissed.
Hmm.
So my personal kind of, cutoff limit is anything you can hit with a truck and it just pisses it off, I'm not fooling with.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, I quite agree.
Yeah. I mean, look, if it takes an African game cartridge to kill the stupid thing, I don't want any part of it.
Dangerous animals we don't play with.
So, Phil, not related, but I'm just curious. Is it legal to shoot gators or hunt gators where you're at?
Yeah. Perfectly. I mean, it's just like hunting anything else. There's a season, you got to have tags for them.
Okay.
But there are. You've seen the Discovery, or what was Discovery? The TV show Swamp People that was airing for a while.
Yeah,
that's legit. My father actually met one of those guys at a grocery store not far from where he lives.
Oh, nice.
I mean, and I know I have a coworker, and her husband, they hunt alligators in season. So I mean, it's a real thing. It's not totally made up Hollywood. It's just I guess something that most of the rest of the country doesn't really partake in.
Yeah.
Not seeing in Louisiana or in Florida.
But I think it's illegal to hunt in Florida, and somebody,
Oh yeah,
Dougie Fresh, said not in Florida equals jail time.
that's right. You have to have a special training and licensing to remove them in Florida.
Yeah.
It's all about generating revenue.
Yeah. Whereas Louisiana, I mean, certain times a year you can see them just lined up on the side of the highway, because the really big ones are something to behold, but the smaller ones, I mean, they just get hit trying to cross the road.
Yeah.
I mean, like you'd see possums or armadillos. It's a thing.
Yep,
Who's next?
Mikey.
that would be me. So I went and saw what some of my lovely tax money has been spent on Friday. And actually, I should say more of my license. Well, it's still tax, but my licensing money has been spent on. So went to the DNR's brand new range that they just opened in end of July, and pretty impressed. Very nice benches, very nice 100-yard range. They've got a 25-foot for pistol, and then a 50 for shotgun only, and then a 50 and 100 for rifle. And they're very nice. The benches are really nice, and it's covered, so the berms are nice and high. So yeah, I'm actually the only one in the entire flipping podcast that actually made it out shooting for once. What the heck? Wow.
I blame my spouse.
Okay.
No, I don't. I did it willingly, but still.
Well, you were voluntold like the rest of us get.
Voluntold, exactly.
Yep. Just like being in the Army, except I don't get shot at anymore.
Mm-hmm. And the pay's a little better.
Well, you could get shot at. You don't know.
The benefits are probably a bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give you that one.
Definitely better. So, or the perks, I should say, not the benefits.
Okay.
What are you guys talking about?
I'll
We're
tell
not
you later,
saying-
Jason. Ask your wife.
Yeah.
Good one. You deserve that one, Jason. You walked right into it, you dumbass. Oh, Jason, I love you, buddy. I do. I swear to God, I do. But Mike's over there.
This is becoming a regular part of the show. Jason.
I'm gonna have to make like a little thing that I put up. It says, "Please wait while we laugh."
Jason's weekly contribution to the podcast. He makes himself a target. And we all take shots at him.
Yeah, speaking of targets, I used a Buckeye target and made it look like I was shooting at it with my shotgun again.
Were you
Uh-oh.
shooting at it with a shotgun?
Nope, 6.5 Creedmoor.
That's from
I was
like
just
what,
kinda-
800 yards away?
No, I was only 100. I was just kind of trying to get it because the main reason for being there was I was taking a guy from work to help sight on his muzzleloader. So I was just I finally remembered to bring the JCAA ammunition with me and was just running some rounds down range, kind of lazily sighting it in, just to get it not even dead accurate, because it's going to get dead accurate sighted at 200. So, but that's a different range and a different trip. So, but yeah, it was fun. Nice, even though it was raining. Although Travis, we did find out that if you staple the big paper targets to the wood backer in the rain, they don't stay up very well. I don't know why, but they just don't. It's a terrible problem. So we just used more staples, and it stayed long enough to stay. But so Jim,
Sure.
cartridge corner. So we're talking about this one.
Now I'm working on the nose for it.
Yeah. So this one right here. And my camera sucks.
Can't make it out, Mikey.
every week.
It's consistent.
You should work on fixing that.
I'm working on getting a different one for this purpose.
You
Yeah.
are?
Yep.
Shocker.
A nice little used GoPro, as I understand it.
Possibly.
Something that we can feed right into this, tie right into this live feed.
Yep. So.
I already know what the cartridge is, Mike. We both know that I know.
Mm-hmm. You know that I know that you know that.
Yeah.
It's got a really heavy crimp on it.
Yeah, I did. If that's ball, jeez.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, that's even heavier than military crimp.
Yep.
Why is that?
This was IMI, I think.
So that's factory loaded?
Israeli
trying to
military.
swing it down to 17 caliber.
No, that's Israeli Military Industries. They build their ammunition like the U.S. Army does for reliability. And yeah, they I could believe that once I heard the IMI head stamp. They're very good about it. But anyway, the cartridge corner. I got voluntold that I guess the cartridge corner is going to be my little bailiwick. Well, whatever. I have a few firearms chambered in that particular persuasion. Actually, I have two that are chambered in 5.56 and two that are chambered in 223. And 223 Remington, 5.56 NATO. That's an official NATO nomenclature. It's nearly the same thing as the 223. Physically, they're pretty much identical. But it's inside of the cartridge that's different. The projectiles are different. And of course, as we all know, the lead in the chamber, the lead into the rifling is quite a bit different. When I say quite a bit, I'm talking a matter of a bit more free bore. What, 15, 20 thousandths free bore, guys? Anybody know?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay. But the point is that free bore is put there for a reason, to handle the heavier pressure that's in the 5.56 NATO ammo that comes out of the Lake City Army ammo plant. 223 Remington isn't quite as hot pressure, and you know, you can fire 223 and 5.56 all day long. You fire 5.56 in a 223 chamber like I did in my contender, you talk about Irgesplitten Laden Boomer. Yeah, you get flat primers out of the 223 chamber. No problems, no issues on my contender, but remember that contender is like a bank vault. But anyway, the point is they're not interchangeable per se. Once you reload them, if you lighten up on your powder charge and stuff like that, down to 223 levels, it'll never be a problem. Excuse me while I clear my throat. Anyway, so I'm going to read one paragraph, what I thought was a major paragraph out of the Wikipedia article. And the rest of it I'll just ad lib as I usually do. The development of the cartridge that eventually became the 223 Remington, from which the 5.56 NATO would eventually be developed. That's an interesting tidbit. Even I didn't realize that 223 Remington was the cartridge before 5.56 NATO. I thought it was the other way around. But anyway, the development of the cartridge that would have intrinsically be linked to the development of new lightweight combat rifle. The cartridge and the rifle were developed as one unit by Fairchild Industries, Remington Arms, and several engineers working on a goal developed by the U.S. Continental Army Command, CONARC. Early development work began in 1957. A project to create a small caliber, high velocity firearm was created. Eugene Stoner of Armalite was invited to scale down the AR-10 design and that he had already had in place. In other words, the AR-10 design, as Jason can attest to us, is scaled up or set up for the 7.62 by 51 NATO. So Stoner of the Armalite Arms was invited to try to scale it down. In other words, make the rifle fit a smaller cartridge. Yay! Anyway, Winchester was also invited to participate. The parameters requested by CONARC were where the parameters were requested by CONARC was 22 caliber. They wanted a bullet exceeding supersonic speed at 500 yards. Rifle weight is 6 pounds. An M16 weighs more than that. Maybe an M4. Phil, does an M4 weigh 6 pounds?
I'd have to review the specs. I know that I know the prototypes were pretty close to 6 pounds, but you're right. Once they got to like the A1, the A2, they did gain some weight.
Okay.
But the original, as it was originally designed by Eugene Stoner, did meet that weight target.
Okay.
But I mean, it was a stripper.
Oh yeah. They wanted a minimum magazine capacity, 20 rounds. Select fire for both semi-automatic and fully automatic. They wanted to be able to penetrate a U.S. steel helmet through one side at 500 yards. That's not a very hard, very big, very demanding parameter. Penetration of a 1.135 steel plate at 500 yards. That's pretty respectable. A little over the eighth of an inch of steel. With that little dinky 55 grain FMJ, that's not too bad.
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just to kind of hedge what you're saying about penetration of a steel helmet, because that you're right, that's not a really high bar to set for the cartridge. But I think you also have to bear in mind that several of these requirements, which were kind of ammunition and rifle because they were developed together, they lend themselves to a very lightweight rifle. Lightweight means you can't handle as much power. Not as much power means you don't get as much penetration. I think the reason why the requirements are there for penetration at 500 yards was so that the round had to have at least so much power, and you couldn't kind of cheat the system by making like a 4-pound rifle that only shoot supersonic out to 100 yards. You know what I'm saying? Like those penetration markers were there to make sure that the cartridge had at least acceptable power, and everything else just demanded lightweight.
Absolutely. The other advantage of the smaller cartridge is obvious if you think about it from an infantryman's point of view, and that would be the fact that you're carrying a 150 grain bullet in a 7.62 by 51 cartridge, as opposed to a 55 grain bullet in a 5.56 cartridge. In other words, you carry more rounds. I think that was the primary consideration in that situation. There's a couple more parameters requested by CONARC, and that was the accuracy and ballistics was supposed to be equal to M2 ball ammunition, in other words, 30-06 Garand, and the wounding capability equal to the M1 carbine. 5.56 does better wounds, creates better wound channel than the M1 carbine. But that's all I'm going to go into tonight, guys. I did my share of reading, and I know you guys don't want to be read to. You can read it for yourselves over on the Wikipedia. And Mike, you want me to grab the link and put it in the notes for this article?
Sure. By the way, M16A1 empty is 6.37 pounds with a 20-inch barrel. Yeah.
And like I said, the original prototypes that didn't have, let's see here, the receiver was slightly different because they didn't have a forward assist on them. The barrel was a lighter weight profile. I mean, there are some substantial differences between the original, I think the XM177 prototype and what became the M16A1, but it's not a reloading chat. Suffice to say that the weapon that Eugene Stoner envisioned is not what went into the hands of the soldiers, as is typical.
Well, unfortunately, in that situation, the only answer there is an answer none of us like, that have had to carry a weapon for a living, and that is politics gets in the way of what we carry.
Well, and there's something said for making something soldier-proof or marine-proof.
Let's just say GI proof.
Yeah.
Because I got a lot of friends that are Marines, former Marines, and so on and so forth, and it's like, you know what? Some are smart, some are not.
Oh, look, most of the guys I grew up with all went into the Corps, except for me. I was the one puke that went into the Army. So, yeah, based on having most of them beat the crap out of me in my my early teens, I've earned the right to pick on them now.
They call you a pogue.
Yep, they do. They sure do. And like I tell every one of them, I have never seen a grunt so happy as the moment air support showed up. So hallelujah, aviation.
Anyway, let's get back to the show, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So our first question comes from Tim Talbot. He says, record keeping is something that I often don't like to do like I should. Most of the time, the only record I have of the load is the label I put on the box, which is the one record keeping issue I'm actually good about. How many of you use commercially printed notebooks? How many use sheets printed from an online source? Have you laid out something yourself? Care to share your layout? So, Jim, I think you probably are the most dedicated in this particular area. So if you want to tell what you do, and then kind of how you got into that. We know Jason doesn't because he's already admitted it. So,
all right, no problem. What I do basically is, well, to answer Tim's question, I put the same link over in the reloading room. I created a shooter's data book. It's similar to the sniper book that you see that the cops carry, the Army guys carry. They all have their own version. The FBI guys, they all have their own books. It's a shooter's logbook is what it is. And because we're not snipers, we're shooters. You know, and all that sort of thing. So what I did, the first thing I did was I created a document a few years ago. It's public for anybody that wants a link. And for all you listeners out there, go ahead and grab yourself a copy of it, download it, whatever. There's also a PDF copy available in the reloading room. I made sure of that. And now I did not bump that document up or anything like that, but it's there for you. You do with it what you want. It is more of a shooter's book, but at the same time, it does at least address your reloading log. That is, it's like I created a spreadsheet that you can add, you photocopy, make copies of it, and you can use that for your record keeping.
Well, that's nice to know, Jim, because last night I was looking online as I keep everything in a binder, handwrite everything down, and I was looking online thinking how I should just transfer everything over. So I'm going to take a look at that as soon as we get off here.
No problem, Travis. It's just something that, you know, I decided one day I had about 5 different sniper books on my bench, and it's like, this is not what I want. You know, like Travis, you and I, we could shoot long distance, but I'm not a sniper. You know, I don't need that stuff in there about how to take and draw out a scenario. I did that back in the Army days, years ago, and all that sort of thing. So I created this book strictly for the information that I, you know, extract from my own shooting. Simple as that. Just a shooter's data book is all I call it. The other thing is too, like Mike has never seen it because I keep it very private, but I also record every round that I produce in a spreadsheet. and I keep it on my computer. I keep a copy on my thumb drive, and I keep a copy up in the cloud.
Yeah, that's what I do, and that's what I want to transfer all that info over. And
well, Travis, you can copy and paste that into that spreadsheet. You'll see it when you go to the document I created. You'll find different tabs, you know, the spreadsheet tab. You'll find different tabs, and you can adapt that, and you can copy and paste your data into my document or my form, and you can adapt it to suit yourself, I think.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's especially useful for like guys like us who cast, and you have all kinds of different projectiles. If a guy just doing the same load all the time, it's not as necessary. But when you're constantly doing different projectiles, different powder, different cartridges, then it gets really important to keep track of every single round. I put dates. I put every detail on every batch of ammo I make. I keep that all in a binder.
Well, the thing is, Travis, what's good about that is, you know, keeping track of your inventory. If, in other words, when you cast up 50 pounds of 200 grain semi-wad cutters for 45 ACP, you know, it's nice to have that record, you know. You might not shoot. It's just a number I pulled out of the air. Everyone knows that we don't cast 50 pounds at a time. Well,
you don't?
I don't have a casting machine. It gets tiresome. I put that's 2.5 pots, you know, come on now. And, well, I do have that 200 grain mold that casts 200 grain bullet, 6 rounds, 1,200 grains at a time. Every time I take a pull on the pot with that, it's the level just drops.
How many pounds of lead do you think you've gone through in your lifetime, Jim?
Lots. That's the only answer I'll ever give you. Lots. Jason knew that was coming. He knows me well enough. Jason and I think amazingly alike. Sometimes it's disgusting. He and I, we don't talk much. Jason doesn't say much, and I don't have to. But it's like, you know, Jason knew I was going to come up with a lot.
Jason, what number is Jim thinking right now?
Well, let's see. 2,000 pounds.
Yep, number one, Travis, number one. Yep, 2,000 pounds to number one.
I was thinking 2,000 pounds times 2,000 years is about
4 gazillion. Yeah.
I was going to say, actually, as far as like keeping records and everything, I was the worst one about it because when I first started hand loading, I only had like 1 load per cartridge. So all I really had to do was just take the book, highlight the page, and that was it. That was all I ever loaded. But what eventually turned me was when I started not so much like experimenting with different loads, but like checking case capacity across various head stamps, looking to see what head stamps were close to the same case capacity or not. Or when I started like doing some load development and looking at differences in overall length or differences in ladder loads, that was when I grabbed a notebook, and it still sits on the bench today. And everything I do that deviates from a standard load gets notes written in there. And then every time I standardize a load, and I'm going to make a lot of them, I write the information down on a slip of paper, the load, the powder, primers I use, the overall length, any other little details, heavy crimp, light crimp. I tear that off and I stick it in the ammo can. That way, at a moment's notice, if I pop the can open, I know exactly what the recipe is to reproduce all the ammo in that can.
Yeah, but Phil, the thing is, your procedure lends itself very well to spreadsheet recording. You know that. You do spreadsheets all the time. I know you do for the work you do.
Yeah.
So you can adapt your information to a spreadsheet.
Very easily. The only real reason I don't is because the computer is here in the house and the reloading equipment's out in the garage. And until I eventually get a laptop, the two are just not going to co-locate. So it's quicker and easier for me to just sit there with a pen and a like a big notebook and just take my notes by hand.
Well, that's spreadsheeting. Are you keeping it on a graph paper of any kind?
No, literally just writing it on a loose leaf.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
But
that's
again,
what I do, Phil.
I
That's
don't,
what
I don't, but again, I mean, you got to think about it. If I had like 6 or 7 distinct loads for a particular cartridge, I would probably do a little more in-depth record keeping system. But like, I can quote you off the top of my head what my powder charge is for every round I load in this house, because I just don't load. I load like one round, one load. I have one load for 9mm, one for 45, one for 38, one for 357, one for 308, two for 5.56, and that's it.
okay. Well, don't take this as a chastisement, but I hope and pray to God you don't trust your memory every time.
No, I don't.
Good, because I want our listeners to understand you don't reload from memory.
Nope.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time, Jim. I'll go to sit down and reload, and I'll forget what weight of powder was I using. I even on the powder hopper, as I'm reloading for that particular cartridge and projectile weight and whatever, I put a sticker on there telling me what grain of powder, what charge weight I'm after, just so I don't forget.
Exactly, Travis. We have to have something tangible.
I know. Sorry,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The whole reason I started writing out those little tags and sticking them in the ammo cans was because I started off loading 5.56 with CFE 223 because that was the load my father had used, and it works brilliantly. And I came into like 5 pounds of BLC2 for free, so of course I'm going to load it. But I went out and did my own load development on BLC2, and I found something that cycled the gun well, makes, it's not beating the brass flat, it's not beating the primers up. And once I standardized that load, I kind of highlighted the note in all my load development notes to say, this is what you want to load. The very next time I went to the bench to load a bunch of those with BLC2, I could not remember what the charge weight was. So I had to go dig through the notebook, find the note, and that's when I started writing notes and dropping them in the ammo cans. Or if you have like those little plastic boxes of cartridges, my dad has a label maker, and he sticks a label on the top of every one.
Yep.
But I mean, to me, whether you're going to reproduce a load a lot like I do, where every time I make a load, I'm trying to fill an ammo can with it. I like to load a lot. I wish I shot as much, but that's another story. But whether you're going to do that or you like to play around and experiment, you need to keep notes, or you're never going to know what you loaded, how much of it you loaded. You're never going to know how to reproduce it. You'll never even figure out what it is. Because, I mean, once you put the bullet into the case, it's kind of hard to figure out what's inside of it short of tearing it apart.
That's right.
Now, Jason, remind me, did I hear you tell a really sad story one time that you worked up a really nice load? I think it was for your 308. You went out, you shot all your ammo, you came back, wanted to reproduce that, and you never wrote down your load.
Correct.
And you had to start all over again, right?
It was on the computer, and the computer hates me because I'm real and it's fake. Little piece of electronic shit. And I couldn't get it back. It lost the data. Just happenstance. And
well, I guess that's something for what Phil and I are doing. I guess we write it down, handwrite everything down. So I guess that's one argument for doing that. But I do like Jim's idea, so do both of them.
What I'm holding up here in front of the screen is a 16 gig thumb drive.
My data book will survive an EMP, and yours won't.
I can't argue that.
Y'all had to expect that from me sooner or later.
Oh, hell yes, you're a prepper. But that's good advice. That's very good advice. But the thing is, my data is easily printed.
Yeah, and I'm about to say having it in multiple places like you do, hard drive, thumb drive, cloud, it's going to be really difficult for you to lose all those at the same time unless dementia sets in.
I've been accused of that.
M4813 says computers and cavemen don't mix. What does he mean by that?
You really need an answer?
Jason, do you have calluses on your knuckles?
Yeah.
Have you ever been a wrench, Jason?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a knuckle dragon, wrench bending caveman, Jason. Get it right.
Okay.
You started it, Jason. All we're doing is giving you what you started.
I understand.
Good man. Good man. All right. So the next item. Okay. Oh, I did post a link for this spreadsheet for the Shooter's Data Book, guys. If you want it, go get it. Okay. And just as an aside, somebody posted something in the reloading room, and I decided to go searching for a listing of brass by the pound. In other words, how many 9mm cartridges will fit in 1 pound? Or how many are there in 1 pound? And when you go to www.armoralley.com, brass counts by weight, somebody was so kind as to put up a whole boatload of calibers by the pound. So it's a link. It's in the show notes. Enjoy, guys. All right, the next one is from a guy by the name of, oh, sorry. Jake, you made it on the air, buddy. He's one of our listeners from the Reloading Podcast group. He's asking a question about, he's got a conundrum. It's been rolling around in my brain. I have a Sporter weight 7mm Remington Magnum. That's your first problem. Is a Sporter weight. I upgraded the rifles through the sales and falling prices in 2015. It's a balanced rifle and handles super well until it goes off and rattles the shooter with a long recoil impulse and large report. I've shot one group with it that I am proud of, as well as the highest scoring whitetail I'll likely ever shoot. Here's where reloading comes in. I'd like to load it to a lesser recoiling load, but I'm aware that if the powder capacity is loaded too much less than 90%, then accuracy suffers. So on one hand, I struggle to be accurate with full power loads because of recoil, and then lower power loads are less accurate by nature in this big case. Any thoughts and experiences are welcome. And I actually contributed to that particular posting, and I suggested that Jake consider, Jacob is the guy's real name. I call him Jake. I suggested to Jake that he consider rebarreling the rifle to a heavier barrel. That'll take a heavier and longer barrel. That'll absorb all the recoil and give you so much more velocity. It isn't funny. But, you know, let's face it, we all work for a living, and the bean counter has more to do with a lot of what we do in this game than anything else. But he had actually said that he'd consider, in that posting, he told me that he'd considered the 280 AI, because he and I have collaborated quite a lot off the air, as it were, about this particular cartridge. And that's my suggestion to him was simple. Put a heavy barrel on it, a longer barrel. That's going to absorb recoil simply by the fact that the walls of the barrel were thicker, got more steel wrapped around that chamber and the barrel, and the extra few inches too on the outside, on the front end of the gun, is going to absorb a lot more recoil also. Anyway, you guys go right ahead.
Muzzle brake.
That might be one.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was also thinking, I mean, if he's anything like me, he might favor a DIY approach over a spend money that we don't necessarily always have approach. If he's fairly handy with woodworking, he could always try his hand at hollowing out the buttstock, taking off the recoil pad, and adding some weight either like epoxy some lead sinker weights or something into the butt and put a decent recoil pad on the back of it. Just try to add a little bit of weight to the stock. Same principle as adding weight to the barrel, but you don't get the adding weight. I mean, I agree with him putting a heavier barrel on it. I guess I'm saying, adding weight to the rifle will make it a little heavier to carry, but it will soak up some of that recoil too, and a recoil pad.
Yep.
But I mean, short of all that, y'all chime in if y'all think I'm completely off base. I hesitate to go with that standard advice of you have to load a cartridge 90% or better to get accuracy, because I've seen some loadings defy that. Or I mean, if he's not talking about going to hit whitetail with it, but just shooting it, he might find a very accurate load further down the charge weight. It may not be anything he wants to hunt with, because he's going to have a lot less muzzle velocity, but he might find another accuracy node further down that's not going to beat him up quite so bad.
The only thing with that, Phil, is we don't want to get into the underload zone, because you do that, then you know what I'm talking about, the underload zone.
Yep.
You get below the safe minimums, because you get in some of those small charges of very slow burning powder. They have been known to detonate, as in explode, not burn. And wind up with split barrels and the whole 9 yards. And it's like, the guy didn't do anything wrong. Yes, he did. He underloaded his cartridge.
Standard advice, stick to published loads. But I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, I'm not well versed on 7 Rem mag, but there's got to be a pretty healthy min and max difference in the powder loads. If you come down, you might lose the accuracy coming down from your current powder load. You might also find another accuracy load before you get all the way down to the bottom. You might not. But if you don't look, you're never going to know.
That's a fact.
And short of that, swap to a lighter projectile and load with faster burning powder.
Well, someone did advise him to double up on a recoil pad. Take that hard rubber butt or hard plastic butt plate off that's on that Remington, and put if nothing else, put a Limb Saber slip-over recoil pad on. Or slip-on recoil pad, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, or wear a padded shooting jacket. I mean,
yep.
I guess my way of looking at it is that there's things you can try to address in the load, and there's things you can address mechanically on the rifle itself. But you got options. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I can completely sympathize though with getting behind a rifle that is just not fun to shoot because it just beats you to death.
Grow stronger.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Look, I got a little lady on the other side of this wall that'll shoot a 30-06 as well as any grown man. But I'm going to tell you that full power 30-06 out of a lightweight hunting rifle is not something you're going to like shooting for very long.
Mm-hmm.
Sooner or later, your shoulder is going to quit before your machismo does.
Right.
Yep. Try with the M1903A3.
Yeah, steel butt plate, 13 pounds, 30-06. Good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the last one we have here is another thread that I participated in. Jared from the Reloading Podcast group. Okay, call me a Luddite if you want, but I've had it with my digital scale. Back to the trusty 505. It may be slower, but when you're double weighing each charge because you've lost confidence in the electronic scale, or digital scale, is it really slower? What scales are you using that you trust? I never went up to the electronic scales. I simply stuck with my RCBS 1010, made by OHouse. I guess I'm the Luddite, Jared.
Well, if I hadn't got an RCBS digital for free, I'd still be using a 505. I mean, it's accurate enough and it works, but I got a free electronic scale, and that was all she wrote.
Well, let me ask you this, Phil. Have you ever had any trouble with it?
I couldn't say I've had trouble. I mean, I have seen maybe like a 1/10 of a grain inconsistency out of it. Like if you sit there and you You have the scale zeroed, you drop a charge in, you pour the charge out, you put the powder pan back on, and it'll read a tenth of a grain high or low, even though it should come right back to zero.
Well,
But
that's tolerance. That's
Yeah.
acceptable.
yeah, but I guess I'm bringing it up because not being able to communicate directly with the listener, if he was seeing that tenth of a grain up or down, I call it the way you do. I call that tolerance. Honestly, my experience with a 505 is that, there's some low to low variance in that. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's a little bit. But to me, the big thing you gain with an electronic is if I'm trying to like spot check my powder throw, I'll drop a piece of brass in the powder pan. I'll hit zero. I'll throw a charge, and I'll put the piece of brass right back in the powder pan. And that lets me spot check my loads very consistently and quickly. And every time I throw a new piece of brass in, I can re-zero it. If you try that with a beam scale, you're going to be chasing, you're going to have to kind of chase it around and find out what that individual case weighs, and then throw the charge, then put it back in, and then find the difference, because you can't just zero beam scale. Not for, the amount of weight of a piece of brass.
True.
So, I mean, it's an electronic scale. To me, it has a definite benefit. I can't say in my experience I've seen enough of an accuracy difference to really get upset about. But I'm probably the newest reloader on the panel, so you guys let me know. I haven't seen it.
Travis, how about you, buddy? You use electronic scale or do you use a digital scale? Or excuse me, beam scale?
All of the above.
Which
So I just grabbed.
trust?
So what I like to do, I don't know how you pronounce this, but these are pretty cheap off of Amazon. And I seen Johnny's Reloading Bench and Elvis Ammo talk about them, so I grabbed one. They're only like $20, and I think you pronounce it wow.
Chinese.
Yeah, and it's actually super accurate. $20. So this is my go-to. But what I do is when I set up for reloading, I'll get the beam scale out, the 505. And then I have a Lyman Gen 6, and I will, when I initially get started, I will zero everything out, get everything set up, and I will check it on all three of those, make sure that they're all consistent with each other. And if once I pretty happy with what I got, I just stick with this, and I check every couple cases on this. But I would not trust a digital if I didn't have like a beam scale or something to check it against.
Is that digital scale? Does it's set up to run grains?
Yeah, these ones you can set it up for grains, grams,
ounces, and all that.
Yeah, everything.
Okay.
But here's the question: is
$20, and they have like two different models, but this one is the one that if you check on YouTube, all the reloaders on YouTube have kind of went to this one, and from all the reports, everybody that has used this one in particular have nothing but good stuff to say about it. So that's why I picked one up. And it's just so much quicker. It's so much quicker to put a pan on this and keep a pan on your beam scale. Because I know what you're saying, Phil, but it's for me, I just keep a pan on each, and then I'll occasionally check them against each other just to make sure this hasn't gone out of whack, and it never has. But it's digital is a lot quicker than waiting for your scale to level out.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question was, had you seen anything to cause you to mistrust it, or is it just not trusting $20 Chinese scales off Amazon, which is a valid point?
The honest truth is this has been more accurate than that Lyman Gen 6.
I call that high praise.
Yeah. I'm shaking my head simply because, you talk about damning with faint praise. Good job, Travis. Jason, you have an electronic scale. What do you have any issues with it?
No, not really. So So I have the Charge Master 1500, has electronic scale on it. And I will let it warm up. I give it 20-25 minutes to warm up because it will shift if you don't let it warm up. I also have a Lyman electronic scale. And I've compared them with the Beam and kind of played around. And I've gotten to where I trust both of them. I don't have any issues with either one. I have had cheap electronic scales that just constantly creep. I couldn't figure out a pattern to make it happy to where it didn't creep or just act stupid. So now when I buy electronic scales, I spend some money on them. Travis, I understand. I mean, it's built some trust with you. That's all fine and dandy. I just haven't come across that one yet.
How about you, Mike? Do you have electronic scale there?
Yeah.
And do you like it?
I've got the Hornady first gen 1500 scale. It's pretty good. I just make sure I calibrate it every time. Using some of these lovely things.
Yeah.
They're
Check weights.
So, loyal listeners know about my trials and tribulations with my auto charge, which still is sitting over there collecting dust. So one of these days, maybe I'll pack it up and ship it back to Hornady. Probably not. I'll probably just buy a Charge Master and let it continue to collect dust, because the last time I talked to Hornady about it, they said, oh yeah, you can send it in, but it'll cost you money. So I absolutely will not recommend the Hornady auto charge. Do not recommend it at all. Don't ever buy it. Don't anyone buy it.
That's online. If you look, that's the one that everybody has a complaint about. But you cannot beat a good beam scale. I think you have to have a beam scale, in my opinion.
I think I got 3 or 4 of them around here. I got the 505 sitting on my desk. That's a giveaway. Even the Lee, once you learn all the little idiosyncrasies that it has, their basic scale is actually pretty accurate. So.
Yeah, I'm not smart enough to work that one. I got one sitting over there, and I could never figure the thing out.
Yeah, they're kind of a little more particular when it comes to setting them up. Once you get them set up, they're fine. But a lot of people will do what I do, which is take them down and put them back in the box, and then fiddle with it every time you bring it out. But you should always check every scale anyway.
Mm-hmm. What I like when I set up for this, like I say, I've got its own pan. So I know exactly what the pan weighs. So it's nice to, occasionally pick the pan up, set it back on to kind of double check itself to make sure it hasn't drifted.
Now, what do you mean by drifted?
Sometimes depends on especially if you get like maybe some little particles underneath of your scale or something, it can cause you some issues. But I've seen some digital scales where it just slowly starts to give you just a little tiny bit of either more or less of a charge. And I think that's kind of what Jason was hinting at with his cheaper electronic scales he's dealt with.
Yeah. Jake, back when he was still running FRN, sent us a few scales to test out, and that's probably one of those ones that Jason was talking about.
Yes, sir.
There were some pretty sketchy scales.
Yeah, I still have them.
I think I do too.
I've been super happy with this $20 scale. I don't know how you pronounce this, but it's WAOAW digital scale, and I think there's 2 models, a bigger one and then this little tiny one. But this one's been a real champ. It's been great.
What was that again? I was going to look that one up. Travis?
WAUW.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think on Amazon you just type in WAOAW digital scale,
Excuse me.
model number W01-50. I say if you go, Johnny's Reloading Bench has done a review on this one and the other model, and he found that the bigger one was a little finicky, but this little tiny one is pretty solid in his opinion, if I remember right. And then I think Elvis Ammo did a review on it, and a couple other YouTube reloading guys did, and this seems to be the one they all trust. So
W01-50, you said was the model number?
Yeah, that's what it says. W01-50.
Oh,
I might have got it. I might have got it on sale for $15. Now that I think about it.
Well, I'm looking at it on Amazon right now for $18.97 and free shipping.
Yeah, it's like I say, just my opinion. I haven't had any issues with it, and this is my go-to one. But I would not trust it if I didn't have something else to test it against, because you might get one and it might be a piece of junk, and you wouldn't know that unless you had something to test it against.
Yeah.
So if you got 2 piece of junk digital scales, you're not doing any good. That's why I like having a nice RCBS 505 or something to compare it against.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a good takeaway because, I mean, a beam scale is not going to be the fastest or the snazziest, but it's hard to argue that they're accurate. They've been loading rounds longer than I've been alive.
Speaking of accuracy, our listener brought up a good point, if you don't mind me addressing it for a minute, that he's with his electronic scale. I've also seen this when they first came out in the reloading room. Fluorescent lights have a tendency to affect some scales, and so do cell phones. We, on our own podcast, have seen cell phones affect the quality of the show. We had to move our cell phones away from the microphone, that sort of thing. But in other words, it's the EMP that comes out of it, the electromagnetic pulse that comes out of your cell phone, or from the overhead lights. Fluorescent lights have been known to. Jason, you remember that. You've been in a reloading room long enough. A lot of folks were complaining fluorescent lights would affect their beam scale, right?
Yep.
Or not beam scale, digital scale.
Digital, yeah. Yeah. And is it EMP or is it the radio frequency coming out of the lights?
Electromagnetic pulse.
It's
RF energy either way.
Okay.
No, it's not a nuclear bomb going off over top.
Well, I've listened to those books Travis was talking about. I just think EMP.
Mm-hmm. I know who Ben Raines is too. I'm actually friends with Jerry Ahern, but that is not an issue for a reloading podcast. And I'll bet you anything Phil knows who Jerry Ahern is.
Believe it or not, I'm drawing a blank on the name.
He's an author.
Did he chisel his words on stone tablets? That was a little before my time.
You're easily amused, aren't you, Phil?
Very. I laugh at my own jokes, can't you tell?
Yeah, I did. Anyway, no, this is a book about after the apocalypse. There are several books. It was a whole series, a Ben Raines series. Anyway.
Well, a good takeaway, I guess, for either digital or mechanical scale of, any kind is you got to make sure that it's calibrated right. Thinking back to the episode when Mike showed everybody how to zero out his 505.
Mm-hmm.
I've known a guy. He didn't know how to zero his scale out, and he just went to loading on it and was getting the completely wrong charge because he didn't have the thing zeroed out.
He's lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
Well, they usually, well, when my 1010, I have a check weight that comes with it. It's also the same weight that I use to push everything over 500 grains. But I'm sure all the scales still come with check weights. What comes with a 505? No check weight of any kind?
I don't
didn't get
think
check weight for
anything.
mine.
No.
The
None of the-
digital, the digital ones usually send
Yeah.
you something to weigh against, but I don't think I got 2 beam scales. I don't think they came with anything.
Nope, mine didn't. Of course, it's not exactly rocket surgery. Just set everything to 0 and then zero it out.
Yep.
I mean, I know that's not. I know that a set check weights be nice, but zeroing a balance scale, a beam scale, is kind of like the first step to using it.
Yep.
I don't know. I learned it in high school biology class.
A little tidbit that I did with my 1010, where you're taking the zero line on the left side of the scale, I took a Sharpie and I made a very fine line at exactly 1/10 over the weight and 1/10 under the weight. Just took a rule and a little straight edge and just made a couple little marks above and below the zero line. That way I know that if I'm within a tenth, I don't have to go back and adjust the poise.
Yeah, and even though it doesn't apply directly to using either kind of scale, I'm sure y'all do, but for any of the listeners that haven't given it thought, what I personally do is I'll take and throw a number of charges into a pan and weigh that and average it out.
Absolutely.
'Cause,
I do that every time I set up my Dillon.
Because I mean, if I'm loading 25 grains of CFE 223 in my 5.56 load, 4 of them ought to be 100 grains. And if I'm loading, 4.5 grains of Hodgson Universal and 9mm, 10 of them ought to be 45 grains. You'll know
That's exactly
really quick. You'll know really, and here's the cool part about that: if you throw 4 charges and you're off 0.2 of a grain, that's a half a grain per cartridge. Not even a half a grain. That's a half of a tenth of grain. You close enough.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly how I set up my Dillon. When I start changing calibers, I throw 10 charges. I keep averaging it until the average 10 charges is exactly 10 times what I want.
Mm-hmm. But my powder pan will hold 10 charges for 5.56.
No, neither will mine. I tell you what, it probably comes close. That pan's that pan's probably 2.5 inches long, about 2 inches wide. Anyway.
Oh, one other thing I can't say from firsthand experience, but I've been told by numerous people with the electronic scales, make sure you keep the dust off of them. Because I've been, and it applies to the beam scales too, but I've been warned by multiple people that if you get enough dust kind of down in the inner workings of an electronic scale or in the hinge points on a beam scale, it will throw it off.
Yep. It will also, long term, it will also affect that hinge point you're talking about.
Yep.
It'll cause wear, undue wear. Just checking the chat, that's all. My chair's making a lot of noise. I'm looking at myself making noise. Do we have anything else, Mike?
Not really. There's some other stuff out there, but it would be not very advantageous to start in on it because you're talking an hour or two. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, we took care of all the issues with your 550, right?
Yep.
That's just a thought. Not tonight. We're already an hour and a half into it, or thereabouts, an hour into it. I was going to suggest that we consider how to change primer setup, stuff like that. Or even to how to go about adjusting. Well, there's not much adjustment in it at 550. How to adjust the shell plate platform, I should say.
So are you talking about going from small primers to large primers, Jim?
Yes, sir.
you get another press.
Not everybody has Travis.
Says the man with how many Dylans in the shop behind him?
Just 2.
2 more than I have.
So I guess, Mike, should we do a Buckeye Targets giveaway to the folks listening in on YouTube or something? Live chat?
Yeah. So, anybody who wants to be in on the drawing in the live chat, go ahead and post enter into the live chat, and then we'll draw some targets.
Yeah. So one thing I want to talk about is I've been in contact with a bunch of companies, and I've gotten a few donations to give away. So we're just trying to figure out exactly how we want to do that. So keep watching, keep listening.
There'll be more coming.
A lot more. I got a pile of stuff sitting over here. Just need to figure out the right way to give it away. So tonight we'll give away some targets. So we'll do this as kind of a test run and see how it works out, and then we'll figure out how to give away all these nice products from other companies. I'll probably talk about each company that has donated stuff. I'll show off what I've got and talk about their stuff and what I like about their products, and then we'll give it away.
And us podcasters are not eligible.
Yeah.
That includes you, Jason.
Spoil sport.
Bastards. Jerks.
Thank you. Nicest
Yeah,
thing you said to me in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I seen you enter your name in there, Jason. Jeez.
I was just showing the listeners how to do it. That's
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
guiding them, really.
So have you even gone out and shot your last target you picked up, Jason?
Ow!
Going through a tunnel. You're
So
breaking up.
what makes you think you need something else? Yeah, so the ones we'll give away this week will be some of our premium paper targets. At some point, we'll give away some steel. Like I say, this is kind of just a test out and see how things go.
Well, the odds are pretty good because I only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 enters. Come on, guys, you could do better than that. If you're listening,
Are the
please
spouses of podcasters allowed?
no.
What about children?
No.
Nor
Yes.
grandparents. I'll tell you what, Carl's eligible, even though he's your dad.
He's already got a Dylan. He didn't need another one.
No, this isn't for Dylan. This is for targets.
He won't share those with me either.
That's your problem.
Not ours.
Shoot him when he's not looking. That's all.
No, I got to hand it to my old man. His generosity is boundless.
There you go.
But I got to give him a hard time because, he is my dad.
Carl, just remember that. I'm on your side, no matter what Phil says.
He gave it to me for many years. I'm just giving it back.
You're
Yeah,
here.
but you're a shithead.
I learned from the best.
My kid would say something like that too.
He sounds like a fine judge of character.
And he's a little shithead.
You sound biased.
No, I'm a realist.
Hey, there we got another one.
8.
And we got 7.
8.
Yeah, so I know at one point Mike's going to be giving away a nice, which is very, very generous. I wish we could be entered into that. A nice Dylan 650. So I think with all the stuff we've got to give away, we'll get a giveaway a Dylan 650 all decked out with Entirely Crimson is one of the companies that stepped up. I got a couple others still waiting for stuff to come in. I've got a pile of brass from Freedom Seed brass sitting here right next to me. So we'll be giving away quite a bit of stuff in the next couple weeks. So
We have 9 entries so far. Can we close it off? The entries at say quarter to 10 Eastern Daylight Time.
That's quite a bit more time. I was going to give him about 2 more minutes.
That's fine too.
Whoops, forgot to readjust that. So, so I'm looking at that scale, and it looks like it's a pretty decent scale. It's got some tweezers and stuff to go with it, and then it's got a 50-gram check weight. Your basic 4-button. So, the one thing I noticed is that it's marketed as a
jeweler's scale, right?
Yeah.
So
it actually does quite a bit more. It's grains, ounces, grams, carats, diamond weight, and I don't know what the last one is. So. OZ something or other.
I'll grant you that we depend on our scale with our very lives to get the grain weight right of the powder charges. But you stop and think for a minute. Scale's got it for a jeweler's got to be pretty damn reliable because those guys are talking about tens of thousands of dollars at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I say, I like watching a lot of YouTube videos. So I've watched this exact one has been in probably six videos that I watched before I purchased it, and it has to be this exact brand because there's a bunch of them that look exactly like this, but it's this exact brand one you want to look at. And like I said, it's the smaller version. The bigger version, I guess, is for some reason isn't as nice as this little small one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think before a guy gets a digital, he needs to pick up a beam scale.
I would absolutely agree. Yeah, I think a beam scale is definitely something that everybody should have.
Yeah, I think some of the basics, you got to have a beam scale, some calipers. I mean, those are just two items I don't think you could reload without, in my opinion.
No. And get a decent set of digital calipers. Yeah, dial calipers are okay, and they're usually a little more precise. But too many people make mistakes trying to figure out how to use them because you do need to learn how to read them. That's a thing. So the digital ones, as long as you take care of them, are pretty good, pretty consistent.
I have both digital and dial. But that was the nature of my job, too. You know, I had to know how to read. Heck, I know how to read vernier calipers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, I cannot figure those dang things out.
Well, like I said, that was the nature of my job.
Yeah, personally, I don't like the digital. I like the dial.
Well, dial are more reliable, you know, because of the prepper, from the prepper point of view. But that's why I own both.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes the digital is just kind of falling back on. You need to know what you're like. Yeah, anyway.
Oh, it's been 4 minutes, Mike. Let's close it out.
All right. So I need to do this and then
Jim, you automatically win something when you go out and shoot.
That was a low blow.
ouch. It's a tough crowd.
Travis, does it count if I take video of me shooting an air rifle?
No, it's gotta have some powder behind it. We hear enough hot air from you.
Wow, somebody's sharing a screen.
Yep.
That would be Mike.
And it's supposed to be just sharing.
It's a bunch of scary looking individuals on there is all I'm seeing.
Actually, what Mike's trying to do is set up a screen from random.org.
Nope. There we go. It's wheel decide. So I have entered our contestants. And now I'm going to spin. And we get some cheesy noise. And the newbie wins the targets. Dougie Fresh, first night joining us for the podcast.
Holy crap. I call foul.
Did you lift your arm again, Jason? It's tough. So Dougie Fresh wins the targets. Dougie, send me Johnny Mac, you were a little late. Send me a email at reloadingpodcast@gmail.com with your mailing address, and we'll get those in the mail to you. All right.
Congratulations, Doug.
Yeah. Lucky bastard.
Whatever you do, Jason, don't ever change. Always be a grump like me.
Oh, for crying out loud. All right. So, we gave away some targets. We announced we're going to give away some more stuff in the future. Kyle said he's winning the 650. So, all right.
I thought
Kyle,
I was winning the 650, Mike.
you ain't winning jack squat.
Son of a bitch.
You already own a 650, Jason. Come on.
I won a second one, large and small primer, just like Trav said.
Oh.
I don't think it's ridiculous. It's not out of line.
Believe it or not.
That is a real concern, isn't it, Jason? Switching that primer. You don't want to do that. You want just a whole nother machine.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's exactly what I'm looking at doing.
Call Dylan.
Jason could be eligible for the drawing because he is one of only 2 people that has been giving at the top level for Patreon since we started the whole program. So technically, Jason could be eligible. So we'll have to discuss that.
But you won't let me because you're a dick.
Somebody's got to be. Might as well be me. I'm good at it. All right. So we want to take time to thank Travis and Buckeye Targets for the giveaway.
Amen.
Yeah, thanks, Travis.
So I love their targets, and it's not just because Travis is sitting here, but the nice thing is he's fast and efficient with sending them out, unlike me. They're great targets. They're easy to see at distance, whether it's 25 feet or 200 yards. They really are printed well, so they do show up. The steel is fantastic.
Now, where did you put those pictures of? Was it on Facebook, the Reloading Podcast group, that you put those pictures of you out at the range with the Buckeye targets?
I think at the podcast group. So I can post them on the podcast page too.
Yeah, so Dougie Fresh could go over there and see what he's getting.
Yep. All of our Patreons should have either gotten or will be getting in the next couple days the latest reloading related patch from patriotpatch.co, the Cycle of Life. I know one listener for sure got it because he sent me a private message today. So definitely something worth checking out. Excuse me. They've got a lot of other great patches. The bandwidth sponsor for the show. They always have new pre-orders. Couple. Looks like since we're heading back into the fall, the Pumpkin Spice Mark 18 smoke grenade patch is coming back. And the other one they've got, which is kind of cool, is a retro NES controller, but it's on a small block, it looks like. So that's a cool one coming up. But you got to check it out. They've always got new stuff coming out. Sometimes they, have a scratch and dent sale, so make sure you sign up on the email. They've got T-shirts, all sorts of different things. They also do custom work. There's a minimum order for that, but they do custom work. And then, of course, the Patch of the Month Club this month was the August exclusive boating safety. So, and one of the things about becoming a member of the Patch of the Month Club is if they have stock left of them, you can actually order the previous ones. So, that type of thing is a bonus. But they're great quality patches. The detail on them is amazing for a morale patch. Like I said, they've got T-shirts. They've got the sweet cleaning mats. And the other thing with the Patch of the Month is you get a sticker to go with the patch. So they've got a 1911, a AK-47, an AR-15/M4 cleaning mats, and then they've also got Luke 22:36, which is a verse out of the Bible, and it says, "He that hath no sword, let him sell his cloak and buy one." So that was Jesus as he was sending out the disciples. And you get conversations with certain people that say, "Oh, well, Christians shouldn't carry guns," or blah blah blah, or this or blah blah. And that kind of is where that one came from, is to kind of prove that no, you're wrong. He did say to do it. So, Circle of Life T-shirt is now a T-shirt also. Lots of cool stuff. The T-shirts come in decent sizes and they fit well. The one I'm wearing tonight, All Rifles Matter, is a 4X, and it is in the current availability too. So let me stand up. Everybody can see it. In the camera a little bit. So, don't. I hate being corded. So All Rifles Matter. Obviously, in response to a certain movement from certain groups. And, I've never had any problems with the ink. This is purposely printed like this. I've never had any problems with any of the products that I've gotten from Patriot Patch Company. Just great quality product. We also want to thank Firearms Radio Network who gives us a place to host these shenanigans every week. So,
Mike, I've got one problem.
yes. What's that problem?
So, you know, that nice reloading, I roll my own t-shirt.
Yep.
From Patriot Patch. I lost it.
What?
That's the problem I got. I lost the thing.
Oh, for crying out loud.
I don't even know how you lose a t-shirt, but I lost it.
Well, you know what? The good news, that's still for sale.
I seen that.
So,
It's one of my favorite shirts.
yeah.
You should get a couple.
That way you don't
I
have to
should. Yeah.
So,
They got a lot of nice stuff over there.
yes, they do.
I noticed they don't have a Reloading podcast T-shirt though.
No.
It's
I would
isn't
really
that kind of the I roll my own?
Yeah,
ish.
that's kind of the behind it.
I want something that says Reloading Podcast. I'll wear that everywhere. People ask me about it. I'll tell them.
Well, if we get enough interest, then maybe that's something we can look into doing.
That's what the
Okay,
shirt
listeners.
looks like.
Show Mike your interest. You want a Reloading Podcast T-shirt?
So we can definitely talk to Jake and Ryan and have them, whip one up if we get enough interest.
Would it have your face on it?
No, we want people to buy it.
Hey, Jason, why don't
Yes,
you
sir.
do what Mike and I did? We actually went to Vista Printing and ordered up some business cards, and we had those business cards could have links on it for the Reloading Podcast and for the Reloading Podcast group and the Reloading Room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Hey,
serious.
just
I did that. I saw you've probably seen it in the Reloading Room. I haven't put them up for a while, but I don't even know. I don't think they have any in here right now. If they are, oh, here we go, right here. Haha. I still have some. I still have a lot of some. There we go. Come on, come out of there. Here we go.
There you go.
Cool.
All right.
It was Vista Printing, Jason. VistaPrinting.com or VistaPrint.com.
So you walk in there and you tell them, make me a Dylan press and put these words on it, or how does that work?
Similar to what you did the other night when you put a posting in the Reloading Room for me. You have to do it online.
I hate it when that happens.
So I got to send them a picture.
No, you do actually can put out that. I created that card you just saw.
Jason, we can talk after, and I can get you more info if it's something you're interested in.
I am interested.
Okay. So,
Thanks, Mike.
all right, gang. On that note, I want to thank everybody yet again. Can't thank you all enough. This is 217, and we're still rolling. So grateful that we get to do this every week. And just wanted to, thank all the feedback we get, all the emails and texts and stuff we get. And that email address is reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. The text or voicemail option is 608-467-0308. That's a Google Voice number. And just want to thank everybody who swings by the firearmsradio.tv site and hits up the Amazon and Brownells links when they're shopping. Amazon and Brownells helps out the network. Special shout out to all of our Patreons. Hope you enjoy the new patch. And on that note, keep your brass shiny.
Keep your powder dry.
It's not a matter of if, but when.
Buy it cheap and stack it deep.
And squeeze. Don't yank that trigger.
Squeeze it, Sonny. Squeeze it.